Hello and welcome to the Kitco Roundtable with me, Paul Harris. No Michael McRae this week. He's on overseas duty in Germany. So it's just me and our special guest today, who is Hugh Agro, President and CEO of Revival Gold. Good morning, Hugh.
Good morning, Paul.
How are you today?
Great to be on Kitco, and very well, thanks.
You're a veteran of the Kitco Roundtable, and obviously Revival Gold was the original or the first sponsor. So, welcome back. We've got a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of news this week, and Revival Gold recently put out a resource update. So we'll get to that in just a moment. I'm going to break the news into sort of two segments this week because we've got quite a lot of interesting things to go over. So I'll get cracking on that. First up, Glencore pleaded guilty to bribery and market manipulation charges. Will pay US and Brazilian authorities over $1 billion US, while also indicating that it intends to plead guilty to bribery charges brought by the UK Serious Fraud Office. Anglo-Swiss Multinational is also involved in an ongoing investigation by the Office of the Attorney General of Switzerland into corruption issues. Sandstorm Gold and Equinox Gold have agreed to sell royalties to Rosedale Resources to create Sandbox royalties in a $93.4 million US transaction. Rosedale will acquire a portfolio of royalties from Equinox for $28.4 million in stock and for Sandstorm for $65 million, comprising $32 million in stock and $33 million in a convertible promissory note. Upon closing, Sandstorm and Equinox will hold 34% and 30% respective interests in Rosedale, which intends to change its name to Sandbox Royalties and seek a public listing on a Canadian stock exchange. Sandbox will be run by Equinox's president, Greg Smith. B2 Gold is back in acquisition mode and is to buy Australian junior Oklo Resources in a cash and stock deal for its concessions covering highly prospective greenstone belts in Mali in West Africa, included the Dandoko project, which is about 25 kilometers from B2 Gold's Fekola mine, and the Anaconda area where B2 is exploring with a very large 200,000 meter drilling program underway. The transaction is valued at 91.3 million Australian dollars. In March last year, Oklo delivered a JORC measured an indicated resource of 528,000 ounces of gold, which B2 Gold believes the majority of which is soft oxidized material, which would be amenable to processing at its Fekola mill. Finally, in this first segment, Silvercrest Metals announced that construction of the Las Chispas processing plant in Sonora, Mexico, has been completed ahead of schedule and below budget, and commissioning is now underway, with the plant expected to reach commercial production in the December quarter of this year. Las Chispas is expected to produce 12.4 million ounces a year of silver equivalent from a 1,250 ton per day operation with first quartile all-in sustaining costs. The company said it anticipates the capital cost of the development to be below that $138 million US budget it estimated in the feasibility study. Hugh, let's take a break from the news there and bring you in. What's been happening at Revival Gold since we last had you on the show?
Well, we've had our own brilliant news just last week with a resource update on the Bear Track Arnett Gold Project located in Idaho. Now 4 million ounces of gold, and very excited about that.
Well, that's quite a step up. That's about what, a million ounce step up from your previous resource estimate?
It is, yes. About a 56% increase in the indicated resource, another 20% increase in the inferred resource. So this is a big step up for us and positions us for that PFS, which we'll aim to complete by the end of this year.
Okay. Now, in the past, you've also released a preliminary economic assessment on Bear Track Arnett, and that was approximately for 72,000 ounces a year production for 7 or 8 years. So this resource increase presumably will allow you, or will result in a longer mine life, perhaps even a higher production number in the PFS that you're currently working on.
Yeah, that's the intention. We've got now 2.1 million ounces in the indicated category. And it's from that material which will draw the pit for the PFS. Last time around, we had about 850,000 ounces in that pit. I expect we'll get close to about 1 million ounces. And every year of free cash flow in that PA mine plan is about $50 million, more than our current market cap. So every year adds a lot of value to this project. Current NAV about $150 million, but we're looking to grow that. And the deposits are open. We'll start drilling again in about a week's time, and continue to grow the outlook for the project.
I want to dig a little bit deeper into one of the sort of comments you just touched on there. You've done all this work, you've added 1 million ounces to resource, but your share price has gone down. It seems to be a very odd time in the market for junior gold equities. A lot of companies such as yourselves, you've done a lot of work advancing your projects, making your projects more robust, but that value add is not being reflected in share prices. What's going on?
Well, I think we start with the background here. In the last 5 years since founding Revival Gold, we've seen the gold price go up about 80%. So we've certainly seen a revival in the gold price. And amongst the equities, the senior gold producers are doing very well. Even though we've had a broad market decline of about 20% in the S&P 500 this year, the senior gold equities are reasonably stable here, and they are producing a lot of cash. Dividends of 2 to 4%, free cash flow rates running at 5%. The industry is in actually very good shape. And yet, as you point out, the juniors are having a tough time of it. By RBC's numbers, we've seen the dollars per ounce of resource in the ground decline for the market cap of these junior explorer developers from about $80 an ounce to about $40 an ounce. So that's a half over the last 2 years. And of course, the equities are off about a third in the last year. So this is definitely, as I see things, a very good time to be accumulating positions, looking at corporate transactions. There's great value in the space. And as you've pointed out, the juniors have done a super job of finding a lot of gold. In our case, our finding cost is running at about $5 an ounce in the ground. So every dollar we're spending is delivering a lot of payback, even at these average rates of $40 per ounce in the ground in the junior valuations. We're still seeing transactions. You mentioned the recent BIMA B2 transaction at $135 an ounce. The average transaction running at about $65 an ounce since 2015. So there's great value in the space. I think this is a really good time to be investing in cashed up juniors that are doing good work. And also, I think looking for the companies themselves at strategic transactions, because this is the time to position.
Okay, thank you, Hugh. Now, just this past week or so, I did some sort of data crunching with Joe Mazumdar of Exploration Insights. We put together a data set of junior gold explorers with resource statements out there with deposits that aren't owned by majors. So there's about 40 odd companies or assets on that list. Aggregate total of about 166 million ounces of gold, and the EV value per ounce ranges from about $6 to $160 per ounce, and the average we came up with was sort of $41 per ounce, which is bang on the number you gave for RBC. So it seems there's as you say, there's a lot of incredible value out there. Now, you've just been the company. You've just attended a couple of investor events in Vancouver and in London. What was the sort of message or the vibe you picked up at those?
Look, I think the reason for the current state of valuations in the junior section really has to do with the Fed tightening cycle, and the risk off trade that we're seeing broadly in the market. But again, this is against a backdrop where the sector is actually very strong at the senior and the intermediate level. And the discussions going on in London just this week, in Vancouver the week before, are more about the juniors that have cash to advance their projects and are making good progress and will withstand this term of risk-off trade. Expectations are for a reversal of that risk-off trade in the fall. And I think the outlook for gold, given all of these inflationary forces in the marketplace over the last 5 years, let alone the last 5 months, are very good for gold in the longer term. Look, there are about a half a dozen senior gold companies. There are about another 2 dozen intermediate gold companies. with the royalty companies, and another, call it 3 dozen junior gold producers. And I think really the overall theme here is one that we've got too many players for too little capital, and I expect we'll see some consolidation in the space and some value accretion through that process. And in the longer term, we've got very good headwinds for the price of gold and for the equities themselves.
Okay, now let's get to a sort of really tough question and how you earn your money, Hugh. How do you navigate this set of circumstances as you move the company towards pre-feasibility study, further exploration of the Bear Track Arnett project and beyond?
Some are saying this is a time to scale back on spend because there isn't a lot of capital available in the space. But I think good projects will attract capital regardless of where we are in the cycle. And so for Revival Gold, the focus is on getting back to drilling, adding more value by building out the size and the scope of the resource and the value of the project. As I mentioned earlier, we will be back drilling here shortly on the Joss target. Last year, we hit our most exciting hole to date and the second most exciting hole in the entire history of the project. We hit over 110 meters of 4.2 grams per ton gold, including a couple of high-grade intervals within that. So we want to get back in drilling, and I think that's where we're going to add value for our shareholders. Keep the story moving ahead, the value surfacing, PFS, economics, all of these things are where we're directed. You cannot look at the market. You can't control the market. What you do is spend your money wisely, $5 an ounce finding cost, do good work, advance your projects, and I think the market will turn around, and those that are positioned will accelerate through the cycle.
Okay, thank you, Hugh. Now let's turn to sort of base metal news, and I'll follow your theme of exciting holes. There were 2 really big drill hits that stand out this week. Filo Mining reported an intercept of 1,337.5 meters, grading 1.33% copper equivalent at its Filo del Sol copper project in San Juan in Argentina. Its best hole ever. And the very next day, its sister company, NGX Minerals, reported an intercept of 1,290 meters, grading 0.74% copper equivalent, its best hole ever at its Los Helados copper gold project in Chile, which is just some 16 kilometers from Filo del Sol as the crow flies. Also last week, research by UK consulting firm Scan Associates shows that the carbon footprint of lithium from spodumene hard rock sources is far worse than from brine sources due to the shipping and roasting required to produce lithium carbonate and hydroxide. Unfortunately, it said long-term offtake contracts mean many EV OEMs cannot readily shop for the material with the lowest carbon footprint. So the question there is, how green is your electric vehicle? In Ecuador, SolGold released an updated mineral resource estimate for its Tandayama America porphyry copper gold deposit at its Cascabel project. It now hosts a measured and indicated resource of 528.5 million tons, grading 0.36% copper equivalent, containing 1.27 million tons of copper and 3.16 million ounces of gold. TAM is about 3 kilometers from the Alpala deposit, which hosts 9.9 million tons of copper, 28 million ounces of gold, and 92 million ounces of silver. Between them is the Moran target, which SolGold is currently drilling, a new target, and the company said the first hole has reached 400 meters depth and continues to intersect bornite and visible chalcopyrite copper sulfide mineralization. Cascabel looks like it will grow and grow. Finally, Tinker Resources received strategic investments totaling 11 million Canadian dollars from Nexa Resources, the largest zinc producer in Latin America, and Peru's Buenaventura, at a more than 50% premium to its market price. Nexa is increasing its stake to 18.2%, while Buenaventura will maintain its 19.3% stake. The proceeds there will be used for further exploration of the Ayahuilca zinc project in Cajamarca, Peru, as Tinker seeks to grow its 20 million ton resource to 30 to 40 million tons. Hugh, let's bring you back in. A lot going on, a lot to digest there. What are some of the key catalysts coming up for Revival Gold over the next 6 to 12 months?
Drilling and a PFS by the end of the year. And it's important to remember that PFS is on the first phase of our project only. So it'll encompass about a quarter of the resource. And as we continue to grow the resource in the mill phase of this project, we'll also look to bringing economics on the remainder of the deposit and the potential of this project. We are, as I've indicated, looking at the broader sector and opportunities to position Revival Gold and our shareholders for the upturn in gold that is surely to come. We think there's some very good value out in the space. We think there's some very good opportunity around consolidation. So we'll be looking at that as well. So both organic and inorganic growth. It's a busy, busy time for our team on site, getting ready for drilling and getting ready for the PFS. All of the technical studies, engineering studies that relate to that PFS are underway. And we're really excited about what 2022 is going to bring to us in the back half.
Excellent. Well, we'll certainly have you back on the show again in the future as and when we get you get the PFS out. Look forward to hearing about that all in due course. That's it for the roundtable, the Kitco Roundtable this week. You can get hold of me on Twitter at Paul Harris Gold. Hugh, how can our listeners get hold of you and Revival Gold?
We're at our website, revival-gold.com, trading on the Venture Exchange and the OTCQX. RVG is the symbol. We're happy to engage with folks as they're interested.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Hugh.
Thank you.
And thank you to all our listeners. Join us next week for more from the Kitco Roundtable with me, Paul Harris.